How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Switch to Verizon Business and get more from your internet without paying more for your internet. Get LTE Business Internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data, and with it, unlimited possibilities. Start saving today with Verizon Business, ranked #1 in small business internet customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. Starting price for 25 megabits per second LTE internet plan with smartphone plan savings, plus taxes, fees, and economic adjustment charge. Terms apply. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
I got the right intro this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You have just been selected, Ryan, to play for the West University Dolphins, which is one of the worst fake team names in history.
Oh, man. If you don't know, you're going to know soon. Welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by Belly Up Sports. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the hosts. And to my right is a man who, if we make it to Game 7 on Friday, which is coming up soon. Hopefully, we'll talk about Game 6 tonight because it's tonight. Hopefully by Saturday he won't be a sad panda. Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing today?
I'm doing all right. I was tired today because my Switch 2 came in, so I did the data transfer. I did all that stuff. And if she's listening, my niece does not yet know that she's getting my old Switch. So I reformatted my old Switch. I boxed it up for her, got everything going. I still have the box, everybody, because I'm like that. But then I watched Blue Chips. The setup took longer. And then I just had to test the thing out. So I'm up. And it was a slow day at work today. I had to power through. How about you, sir? How are you?
Good for you for having a slow day at work. Mine was just nonstop between getting blood drawn and then signing in. Just the rest of the entire day at work was just crazy. But I'm happy to be here today. We're talking about Blue Chips. We're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Final. We're going to talk about a weirdly funny interaction between the Boston Red Sox mascot and the New York Yankees Yes Network field reporter. We'll also reveal our favorite athletes to wear the number 44. But in the meantime, before we do that, we just want to and we're going to reveal a new affiliate sponsor tonight. So get ready for that. But in the meantime, we just want to remind the people at home watching or if on podcast to follow us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required. You can also listen to our other podcasts and read our written articles at bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and after the show on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell on Twitter and on YouTube. That way you know when shows go up, when live shows go up, when the audio only goes up, when there's show announcements, when I just make funny memes or share GIFs. Just hit that notification bell so you're well informed. Also, we are a live show on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern and on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern for the Saturday brunch edition throughout the spring and the summer. It'll change in the fall when NFL hits hard. But we're a live show. And also on the podcast side, on the podcast side, rate, review, comment, leave a 5-star rating, leave a review on a podcast platform if you can, and also leave a comment on our YouTube channel and on Spotify. And again, we're a live show Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturday morning for the Saturday morning brunch at 10 a.m. Eastern. We want your comments. It's a live show. We want your live comments. And, after today, I could certainly use this because it was a heck of a day between personal and work stuff. And I know you had a slow day today, Dustin. You're trying to keep awake, but this sound always seems to pick us up before we go.
It'll bring the energy back into my veins. It looks like it's chime time.
Into the veins. You get the ultimate warrior feeling. Get into the veins, the warrior.
Oh, I was thinking Barney Gumble. Hook it straight to my veins.
You get this truck full of beer.
Yeah. I'm the designated driver. Oh, man. One Barney Gumble.
That's drunk talk. Sweet drunk talk.
It was one Homer Simpson who introduced Barney to his first beer the night before the SATs.
It's true. He did. Also, Mo introduced him to coffee because he quit alcohol. But all right, we're going to get into our movie review series. That is the No Ticket Required movie series. Let's hit that trailer. All right, and the movie we're talking about this week is from 1994, Blue Chips, starring Nick Nolte, Penny Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal, and a host of other cameos and appearances.
Yeah,
you'll see it in the credits. You'll see it throughout the entire movie. Also, Mary McDonnell, or McConnell, excuse me.
Yes.
Yep. She's aged like fine wine. Let's just put it that way. I mean, looking back, it's 31 years since that movie was. 32 years since that movie was made, and she didn't look like she's aged a bit.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, Ryan, one of my notes here says Coach outkicked his coverage.
And she left him.
Yes, but then they were like the weirdest divorced couple of all time because they kept finding their way back to each other and clearly still cared for each other. Sometimes that happens, but that's an aspect of this movie. Let's dive right in.
Dive right in. All right. So I saw this movie when I was a teenager, and it didn't really. I couldn't remember some of it. I remember parts of it here and there. Remember the fact that Shaq was in the movie, and Penny Hardaway was in the movie. They were professionals by then, which is interesting because they were reprising a college role. But you also have different other players who graduated from college. I think Bobby Hurley was still at Duke when this movie was made. He showed up in an Indiana uniform, and I'm pretty sure he threw up in his mouth when he had to put that uniform on. But this was a movie. But I'm gonna let you dive into it, Dustin. I'm not sure if I remember correctly. I remember you said you haven't watched this movie. So were you watching it with fresh eyes?
Well, in a way, I was watching it with fresh eyes, but I've seen this movie. This movie was a movie that I glommed onto in my youth quite a bit, and I have it on DVD. I tried to find it on streaming because I knew the sound quality would be better, but I went with DVD because it was already in my collection. I knew this movie very well at one point, and but I hadn't seen it in probably easily a decade. So I put it on, and let me just say, I'm going to come right out on Front Street with it. This movie, 1994, I was 10 years old. When I believe when they were shooting for it, it was 93, something like that. I don't know how long production took on the movie, but this movie, back when I was a young tyke, to use a word from the 1920s, probably, I really liked basketball. Okay. Basketball was like, I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to be a great shooter. I had a basketball hoop. I was out there. I would talk basketball with my older cousin. We would go out there, shoot baskets and stuff when I saw him. So I was immersed in the world of basketball at this time. So this movie has like a nostalgic a pretty big nostalgic space for me, and that carries this movie for me because I like this movie. There's a lot of cheese that you have to deal with. There's some 90s cringe. Let me tell you, the scene where old Petey Bell, aka Nick Nolte, is trying to recruit Butch McRae, also known as Penny Hardaway. They put Penny in the credits. Anthony was nowhere to be found. That it was cringy when he's tossing the pillows around and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna have a real fun time with this." I'm gonna do lots of Nick Nolte impersonations.
I'm here
during
for
this.
it. I'm here for it.
But this movie, I liked it. I bought into it for one major reason. I had forgotten how much work, and it's clear, they put into the basketball sequences. They were really playing basketball in those sequences. They had real players. Penny Hardaway, it's funny when you watch the 30 for 30, This Magic Moment, they talk a little bit about blue chips in the doc. And Shaq said that he called while they were filming it, because by the time the movie came out, both of these gentlemen were in the NBA. But when they were filming it, Penny was still in college, and they were looking at who to draft, and there was a lot of scuttlebutt that they might take Chris Webber.
Yep.
But Shaq, he was shooting with Penny, and he said, "You got to get this guy. He's passing me the ball every time, and it's right there. He's throwing some of the most unbelievable passes I've ever seen." He was vocal with Magic Brass. He said, "You got to work him out. You got to go get this guy." And they were already looking at Penny, but after Shaq was so vocal, I mean, at that point, Shaq's your franchise. So this movie, they did not have a relationship before this movie, I guess. It really started on this movie.
Yeah.
So with that backdrop, but I bought into it because the basketball sequences, they felt, especially for the time, genuine. You had a lot of you had Dick Vitale in there. You had Nick Nolte, who supposedly, I think I read somewhere, his performance was heavily inspired by Bobby Knight. Jeez.
It was.
So
Yes, it was.
Pete Bell is wound a little tight. You had Bobby Knight in there himself. You have Sark, the coach, Jerry, what was it? Sarkeesian?
Jerry Sarkeesian.
Yeah, you had Sark in there, and you had a very young-looking Rick Pitino. So it brought some authenticity to this movie, and I think it was because John Singleton, who I think was a producer on this movie, I think he was part of the reason. He did not want the basketball scenes to look cheesy, and to me, they don't. There's a couple of moments, but this movie rang true. I thought Nick Nolte's performance, while it was a little bit over the top, was pretty, it was pretty good. I thought he kind of carries this movie. But also for me, I'm biased. My love of Shaq shows through even in this movie. Shaq is so charismatic. And Penny does a good job in the movie too. When he comes in and says he's homesick, you believe it. You believe it. And he looks like he's out of water. Now there's some things that happen around the movie that kind of ding it down. Nick Nolte's Mary, who was it that played Nick Nolte's estranged wife?
Mary McDonald.
McDonald. I was going to say
Mary McConnell.
McConnell. Thank you. I was going to say McCormick. I knew that wasn't right.
Sorry, it's Mary McDonald. God, I keep
Mary
confused, but Mary McDonald. Yes.
Okay, Mary McDonald. She was also very good in this movie, and the reason that Nolte and McDonald, I believe their relationship, that she especially realizes they can't be together anymore, but they still love each other clearly. But the part where he plays that part where he's addicted to the work, he's trying to watch game film at the house and stuff. We've heard that trope 1,000 times. Yep. This movie does have a lot of tropes in it. You kind of got to get around some of those. You got to get through some of those. And the weakness of this movie is, okay, you're going to have Ricky Rowe, who's also from French Lick, and Larry Bird is in here, and he takes you out to French Lick, and the whole thing. And then you have those sequences. The sequences in French Lick felt the most far-fetched to me. The one in Chicago, I bought when they went to see Butch McRae, And I like how all the other coaches, they're like, oh, we're in trouble because Pete Bell has all these relationships with these guys.
and you see him driving the car, the grand marshal in the parade. And you see Pete Bell in front waving to the other coaches.
What? Yeah. So there's moments in this movie, but it's there's some stuff you got to get through. I mean, Happy is a little over the top, and Happy's, he has the look of a smarmy, wormy person of ill repute, and of course he is. And then you got Al Bundy, Ed. His name is escaping me. Ed
McNeil.
Ed O'Neill, and he's also named Ed in the movie. He's the reporter,
but keep his own name.
He has it in for Nick Nolte seemingly, but Nick Nolte's performance and also Shaq carry this movie for me with a heavy dose of nostalgia, because yes, Nick Nolte's over the top, but when you realize he's trying to tap into Bobby Knight, we've seen some of what Bobby Knight did. Pete Bell's not too far off. And I believed Pete Bell's stress level a lot more than I believed Sonny's in draft day, because this was given some time to build. I do not think this was a slow movie, but they also gave it time to build. But one of the worst names of all time in any movie anywhere, Neon Boudreaux. Shaq's character's name of Neon Boudreaux is one of the cringiest fake names in a movie. So you got to overcome stuff like that if you're going to watch Blue Chips. And if you're watching it with a new pair of eyes, you might not have the same soft spot for it that I do. But with that, Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So I've got a few observations from this movie because I had a really busy weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch the movie, so I kind of listened this morning, excuse me. So I'm gonna have to watch this movie again in the future just to find out how many GD bombs that Nick Nolte drops during the film. Because I think that's his favorite swear. Like any movie that he's in, that's his favorite swear, because he says it so well. He means he puts a lot of emphasis into it.
Have you heard the Patton Oswalt bit, Ryan? He does an impression because apparently Nick Nolte, they were looking at him to play Han Solo in Star Wars. So can you imagine if that happened?
Nick Nolte is
Patton Oswalt is just like, Chewie, fix the hyperdrive, but he puts a few other things in there.
They should do an episode 4 remake with Patton Oswalt as Nick Nolte as Han Solo. Right. Yeah, I have to rewatch this movie just because I just need to get the count of how many GD bombs that Nick Nolte drops in this movie.
Oh man, right in the beginning, he probably hits double digits with that.
Oh, for sure, with that sequence where in the locker room he's like, none of you deserve to play. You don't deserve to play college basketball. You don't deserve to be here. Walks out of the room. The coaches come up. All right, guys, this is what we need to do in the second half. He comes barging back in. You don't deserve to play here. You're a bunch of losers. Goes on a rant again. Exits the room. Coaches are like, okay, guys, seriously, let's figure this out. He comes barging back in the room. He just goes nuts. Goes ham banana sandwich. That entire 10-minute sequence in the beginning. But as you noted, Dustin, there are an astounding number of college coach and former college player cameos in this movie. You mentioned Jerry Tarkisian, Tark the Shark from UNLV, and later I'm trying to remember which other college he coached. So anyway, Rick Pitino, Jim Boeheim made a cameo in the movie.
Oh, I didn't catch Boeheim.
Coach Boeheim was in. He's in a couple scenes.
Okay,
he was in that one scene where they were meeting with Father Louis Gossett Jr. I forgot his character name. Yep. But he had talked about. I guess he had sent Tony over to play for Western, and wanted to get a hold of Penny's character. I can't remember his name.
Butch
McRae.
Yeah.
Butch McRae. Actually, I looked at IMDb. He is listed in the credits as Anthony Penny Hardaway.
Okay. All right.
Yes. But there's a ton of player cameos, a ton of coach cameos, Rick Pitino, Jim Boeheim, Jerry Tarkisian, Bobby Knight obviously was in it, and that served as the inspiration for Pete Bell in this movie. But there's other ones. I mean, Shaq is obviously one of the main characters in the movie. Penny Hardaway, Matt Nover, formerly of Indiana University. And if you go to his IMDb profile, it's not Matt Nover. It's not a picture of Matt Nover. It's a picture of Shaquille O'Neal as Neon Bordeaux at Western University.
Man.
He probably didn't want him he probably didn't have a headshot to give to IMDb, so he put that in there. But we had a lot of characters. We had a lot of familiar faces in this movie. Robert Wool plays Marty. He's this kind of the scuzzy agent. Like they're trying to get a hold. He's trying to get these recruits to go to. JT Walsh, who plays Happy.
Yeah.
He's got a punchable face.
Oh, he really does. He really does.
He's in different movies. I don't know if he plays villains. He's definitely got the villain face, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us anymore. So he passed away. He passed away in 1998. Man, he's
wow.
Been
4 years after this movie came out.
Yep.
Wow.
He was in Sling Blade, Needful Things. What else was he in? What other notable movies was he in? Nixon. So he's in some movies, but yeah, like his character had the most was the typical 90s sports movie villain.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the friends of the university, friends of the program.
Friends of the program. That was one of the tropes in there, as you noted. I mean, there's a few, but yeah.
Friends of the program and happy. I'm happy.
I'm
rich. I'm rich, and I got hookers on my every week. But yeah, JT Walsh, you can tell he's just like, I want to punch him in the face. But I'm sure when he was alive, he was a super nice guy. Like, I'm
probably, and it just shows he was good at his job.
Yes,
you know.
Western University, you could definitely tell they borrowed their colors from UCLA.
Yes.
And all the colors from UCLA, from the banners to the uniforms. Champion was I saw some product placement. Champion had the uniforms. Pepsi had a lot of product placement in there.
Pepsi Pepsi was big. They were trying to come for Coke's crown in the 90s, and also Shaq was in Pepsi commercials, so that might have been why they had such a presence in this movie.
Yep. And I couldn't tell. I was looking at the sneakers that everyone was wearing. I could swear that they were Shaq shoes or some sort of Reebok shoes because I think at the time, before he created his own brand, Shaq had a contract with Reebok.
That's correct.
I remember Penny Hardaway in those Nike commercials.
Yes,
with Little Penny, with Chris Rock voicing Little Penny the puppet.
Yeah, they had competing shoes, and then they had Chris Rock. There was in one of Shaq's Reebok's ads, they had a knockoff of Little Penny, and Shaq knocked him off the couch. That was big. That was big problems. Big problems for the Magic.
That must have been after he went to LA. I suspect
it was before. It was probably like a year before Shaq went, but it was part of the problem because Shaq, and he admits it now. He said, I was in my 20s. I was young and stupid, but when people started to view the Magic as Penny's team, I needed it to be my team. I wanted that meaningless title. I wanted it to be Shaq and the Orlando Magic, not Penny and the Orlando Magic. Because that's how I don't know if they still do it in basketball, but that's how they used to introduce. They used to be like, oh, Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics. They take whoever the star was, and it was always that star. Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers take on, Clyde Drexler and the Portland Trailblazers or whatever.
Right. Let's see what other things. It definitely had a lot of 90s sports movie tropes. Like we've seen a couple of 90s. We've done a couple of 90s sports movies on this channel, on our channel. Last year we did The Program, which was released a year before in 1993. That had a lot of 90s. pure 90s sports movie tropes with the montages and
Yes.
kids taking money under the table or on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting that Shaq is the most moral character of this film. Like he projects himself as this really innocent kid, but he has that streetwise presence, like, especially during the first couple scenes with Mary McDonnell with Jenny. We talking about the going over the SATs because he scored a 560 because he spelled his name wrong on purpose. He might have done it on purpose.
Yeah,
but she says, "All right, what's the nation? What's the country north of the United States?" He goes, "Spain."
yeah.
And then she says, "All right, what's the country below the United States?" Canada. And you see him hamming up for the camera. You can tell he was made for the camera. Like him. And the camera get along.
Yeah, one of my favorite. It's just a weird little thing, but when she's like, "Neon, please don't hurt the children," or whatever she says.
Please don't step on the children.
Yeah, please don't step on the children. And he just turns around. He's got like a kid on his shoulder. He's just like, okay.
That kid's probably is definitely an adult now and probably tells stories. It's just to go to bars to pick up women. Hey, I was in Blue Chips, right?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What's Blue Chips? Oh, let me show you the scene. And he's picked up by Shaq and he's getting thrown around by Shaq.
Yeah.
What was that other thing I texted you about? Oh, cultural bias.
Yes.
Why'd you flunk the SAT? Yeah. Why'd you flunk the SAT? Cultural bias.
Yeah, those tests are culturally biased.
And he's going during the English lesson or lecture, he goes, why don't you this class is cultural bias.
Yeah. How about those shorts in that scene, man? They're 90s. They're 90s.
Pull up right to the belly button.
Yeah. And that's why I have such a soft spot for this movie.
Yes.
It is a time capsule.
It
certainly is a time capsule for me.
Certainly is. But yeah, actually, we're going to wrap up the segment in just a couple minutes or so. But you could kind of tell this was definitely a prophecy in some ways, because in college sports today, you got name, image, likeness. You recently had the Supreme Court decision about the back pay to college students, like instead of like getting NIL money, like they had to get paid a certain fee, and now it's basically professional football, but not professional football.
Yeah, teams have GMs now.
Yeah, all these programs have GMs. Like Stanford has Andrew Luck as its GM, football GM, and Woj from formerly of ESPN is now the GM of St. Bonaventure, his alma mater, and you got all these different former players being GMs of their teams, of where they went to college, or in some cases didn't go to college.
Yeah.
But yeah, these players are going to be paid now, and it just seems to be, it just reminds me of the whole era in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s and 2000s of all these programs being hit with all these violations for either programs knowingly or not knowingly finding out their boosters are paying these kids under the table, like supplying them some extra money. And there was the ESPN 30 for 30 about the Fab Five from Michigan, and Jalen Rose saying, "Yeah, I can't. You're telling me that I gotta go to all these classes, and I can't afford to go out, and I can't get another job. I can't afford to go out and get a pizza with one of my friends on a random night. Like you tell me I can't get some money from a booster just to have some extra spending money because I'm having a full ride, because I'm getting a full ride and full scholarship to go to school and go to class and then go to basketball practice. It's like we should have gotten this money." And I said, "Yeah, I definitely agree with them in that point. Like you're an ambassador of the school you're going to.
Yep.
You deserve a little bit more of a stipend than, say, someone who's not actively being an ambassador of your school."
Yeah, and as much as I hate to do it, it's the one thing I agree with Happy on. He says He yells when Nick Nolte, spoiler, and I give Pete Bell credit for trying to hold out as long as he did, but he finally decides, all right, I got to keep up with the Joneses here, and we got to start paying for players. When Pete Bell says, I don't want you near my players, I don't want you, the whole thing, and he calls him what he calls him. Happy said, these players deserve this money, he said, because they make millions for the school. And what do you get? You get a long-term contract and another deal. And what do they get? They get nothing, which some people would argue they're getting an education, but it's also, is it equal to the amount of revenue those kids are bringing into the school and other recruits? I mean, we could argue that point all day, but you're right, Ryan. I think that part of the reason this movie holds up for me is because it was talking about an issue that happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, famously at SMU, and we know some others examples as well. And it continued with the University of Miami and other things that happened after that. Yep. And it just seems like you said, you hit the nail on the head. This movie was prophetic.
And it also brought up the point. It also brought up point shaving, because there was a point shaving scandal in the NCAA in the early 90s with, I believe, Arizona State University.
Yeah, was it? I think it was. Was it the team that Mike Bibby was on, or was that after? Interestingly
enough, it was during the 1993-94 season while this was being made. Now, I don't know if the paths just crossed. Mm-hmm. And it just happened to do when we find out that Tony shaved points on purpose because it was paid off by Happy and the friends of the program.
He was failing TV, Ryan. He was desperate.
But apparently point shaving was also, I think point shaving was also a thing in the early 50s too, which with the City College of New York, they had to forfeit a couple of NCAA titles because they were caught in a point shaving scandal. So the paying off kids for their goods and services, the point shaving, getting paid to fix games, it all shows up in the 90s, and you're just like, wow. You're looking back 31 years after it's released now, and you're going, wow, it was practically prophetic. This movie was prophetic with the point shaving and the NIL and giving kids' parents getting stuff, get their kids in the university or convincing them to come to the university. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right, Dustin, final grade. What does this rank in the 4 movies we've seen so far?
Okay. Now, I struggle with this. Because, I realize nostalgia and everything plays a big role for me.
Yeah.
But let's see. Seabiscuit is still number 1. Mm-hmm. So far, I haven't found anything that's going to unseat Seabiscuit. Then this is where I struggle. I struggled between Blue Chips and Mystery Alaska. And I think I'm going to give Blue Chips a slight edge because of nostalgia, just over Mystery Alaska. Though I did enjoy Mystery Alaska, this is where I struggled. And ranking at the bottom for me is still Draft Day. I'm sorry. Anthony can tell me that he'll be here within an hour to yell at me about my ranking of the movie, but Draft Day is last for me right now.
Okay.
How about you, Ryan?
All right. So my number 1 is still Seabiscuit. No debating that. Number 2 for me is still Mystery Alaska.
Okay. Yeah.
And number 3 is Blue Chips because hell, the 90s stereotypes and whatnot, and it was entertaining, but I still need a little bit of that human element that Mystery Alaska had compared to Blue Chips. I mean,
yeah, it did have more, although Nick Nolte's speech at the end really and I was with together. Him. I was like, good job for sticking to your guns,
Yeah, it tied everything together for sure. Yeah. And then in last place, it's Draft Day.
Oh man,
will my picks back?
Draft Day will move up the ranks though, because we have a movie coming.
Yes,
I think it's gonna be
No Holds Barred. We're gonna watch next week.
That's next week already.
That's next week already. We're already halfway. We're at the halfway point next week.
Oh boy,
which is hysterical. but thank you, folks, for sticking around with us. So yeah, this has been this edition of No Ticket Required. Where is it? Dang it! There it is. All right, before we continue, we just got a quick comment from the comment section from Julie from Michigan saying, double dose of sports balls here. Yeah. Which I suspect that she's probably watching us and she's probably watching the Tigers game going on. So.
Yeah, I would think so.
But Julie, good for you for sticking with us. On
yeah.
the
Always
live
nice
side.
to see you.
Absolutely. All right. We got to do our network affiliate, our network mandated commercial break. But we have a brand new affiliate sponsor, Dustin.
Ooh.
And that is Royal Retros. I love me some Royal Retros, but I gotta do this ad read first because I generated it on ChatGPT. Huzzah. Yeah, I cheated a little. So what? You probably do too. Remember when jerseys were bold, mustaches were glorious, and shorts were way too short? Good news. You can bring all that retro magic back, minus the chafing, with Royal Retros. They've got vintage style football, baseball, and hockey gear that screams, I was born in the wrong era, but I look amazing. Rock a jersey that makes people say, wait, is that from the 80s? Yes. Yes, it is. And you look fantastic. Head to royalretros.com. Use the promo code CREDHEAD at checkout for 10% off your order. That's CREDHEAD, CREDHEAD, with excellent taste in throwbacks. Royal Retros, because your fandom deserves a little flair and a lot of polyester. I do want to showcase one product they have.
Oh man,
it's from the 1990s. I'm gonna every time I do a read from Royal Retro, I'm gonna feature a particular team that either is extinct, it no longer exists, or was proposed but never went through. So this one is going to be the Florida Blockbusters.
Oh man.
And the description says, when the expansion of Miami, Florida hockey franchise was deciding on a team name, their owner Wayne Huizenga proposed the name Blockbusters after the video rental company he owned at the time. The name was rejected by the league, and the team eventually settled on the Panthers.
Wow. Could you imagine if my Oilers were playing the Blockbusters tonight?
Let me show you the proposed jersey, Dustin. Let me show you the glory that is the proposed jersey. Look at that.
All right, that doesn't look half bad. I gotta say, I'm using that CredHead code, and I'm getting something. Originally, I was looking at the Whalers jersey on there. When you told me that we
alternate yellow, that's a really nice one.
Yeah, that one
yellow is awesome.
You know what it kind of vaguely looks like too. If the yellows were just a little bit lighter in the blue, it would be a perfect jersey to don for your screening of Blue Chips, because it kind of looks like the Western University Dolphins a little bit.
It does, and the lettering, the font does too.
Yeah.
After Blockbuster Video. Oh, and one other cool thing about Royal Retros, I am a previous customer. I've gotten some things from here. If you've noticed my Baltimore Stallions 1995 champion shirt, I got that at Royal Retros.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the one cool thing about Royal Retros is that when other companies, you notice that, I don't know if you notice, I'm a bigger guy, and I tend to get 2X or 3X for my shirts depending on the fit. And a lot of companies will upcharge you for larger sizes. Royal Retros does not do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is really, really cool. So if you're you're a little bit stockier, a little chunky hunk like me, you can get your shirts in 2X, 3X, and onward, and there's no upcharge for it, which is really awesome. Which is one thing I like about Royal Retros. So again, royalretros.com. Use promo code CREDHEAD, 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 like the no credentials, like our no credentials required. Our CREDHEADs, our fans. You get 10% off your order, and You get free ship every order over $100. You get free shipping, which is really cool. Which is really cool. So you can combine and save. You have an order over $100. Use that promo code. You can save yourself a little bit more extra cash. So Royal Retros, we're happy to have you on board, and I'll be definitely getting some gear myself soon because there's really cool stuff out here. They've got retro leagues. They've got CFL, the American teams from way back in the day from the CFL USA expansion, which I think when I make my videos about those teams from that era, Royal Retros is going to be the affiliate sponsor for that. I'll make a commercial. I'll make an element commercial for that, and have them at the commercial. But they also have present gear too. They've got UFL gear.
Yep.
Present and historical. They've got AF1 for Arena Football 1, which, by the way, our Albany Firebirds are the number 1 seed in the AF1 playoffs. They'll be playing Salina on Saturday. By the way, Dustin, guess think again of the final score of Saturday's game at the MVP Arena between Albany and Washington.
Oh man, Albany and Washington. Let's see. I'm gonna guess 75.
No.
Okay, what is it?
98-12.
Wow.
Final score.
Wow. All right. I overshot. I undershot it.
You undercut them.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, AF1 gear. They have historical Arena Football League gear too. Different leagues from the past, present, former logos, teams that you may have never heard of that never got a chance to spread their wings and fly in the professional realm. Like I said, for every time we do a Royal Retros read or commercial, I'll preview a team or a product that from a era of the past, which is pretty cool. So that's why I love Royal Retros, because it's like I love to nerd out on teams that either didn't exist or existed for a little bit and are no longer here.
Yeah.
And people will ask me, "Where'd you get that shirt?" I'll point them to Royal Retros with promo code CREDHEAD at checkout, 10% off, and free shipping for orders over $100. All right, before we got a couple of segments to go before we get out of here. Let's talk about Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, which is tonight. Dustin, your Edmonton Oilers are facing elimination for the second consecutive year in a Game 6. This time it's at Florida as opposed to being at Edmonton a year ago. Last game, Game 5, Calvin Pickard started in net, and it unfortunately didn't go well for the Oil in a 5-2 loss at home. But they're facing elimination tonight. The Cup is in the building tonight, Dustin. On a scale of 1 to 20, how worried are you?
18.
18?
Yeah, 18.
I'm 18.
18, Alice Cooper. Because the thing is, I really, and Brent said it too in our Stanley Cup preview show. And I remember telling you a couple of years ago when the Oilers couldn't even get to the Western Conference Finals. They kept falling short. They had that run a few years ago where they went and lost in the Western Conference Finals, and then they kept falling short. And I'm saying they're ruining Connor McDavid's prime. They're squandering it. How long will he stay here? Will he get frustrated like LeBron did with the Cavs? And I've been worried about it ever since. And I have to wonder if they don't win. I don't like putting artificial pressure, but if they don't win the Cup, there are going to be some serious changes to how this team is constructed, I feel. And I know Leon Draisaitl signed that extension, but if he's not on a line with Connor McDavid, if Connor does decide to leave, will Leon stay? I mean, you don't know. I'm worried, Ryan, and it's ironic because we're going to get into it when we talk about our favorite 44s. Sometimes your window of opportunity with a certain team as it's constructed is short. And I'm going to give a little tease, but I think it dovetails into why I'm so stressed about this series.
I know who it is. In
2006, the Edmonton Oilers had a magical run. And then after they lost that cup, that team was effectively, through some things outside of their control, that team was blown up. And then there were some lean years for the Oilers for a long time after that. and they were scuffling, and they were always trying to find it. And they had a couple of years of high draft picks, and it just didn't work out. And they ran Taylor Hall out of town, and there was all these people. I remember when Riley Nash was going to be the next great hope, and Sam Gagne. The fans loved him in Edmonton, but those teams, since that 06 run, they've never really had a team that captured and advanced far until Connor McDavid got here and they started improving. And I'm just worried. I'm worried what could happen if they don't win the cup this year. And the Panthers are showing why. They were last year's champions, and they got a good chance to repeat. I'm always going to have high hopes for my Oilers, but I am very worried, Ryan. Very stressed.
Yeah. Here's the thing about both teams. I'm not going to be mad if either team wins the Stanley Cup. I'm not. I mean, there are some fans who are, especially if you're from Boston or from Toronto, you're rooting hard against the Panthers.
Yeah.
Or the Rangers. I'm not. I'm a neutral party. But I'm also not mad. I wouldn't be mad if Edmonton won the Stanley Cup, because it's been a long time since a Canadian-based team won the Stanley Cup, and it's also been 34 years since Edmonton last won a Stanley Cup. That was at the tail end of the dynasty years in the 1980s with Gretzky, who got traded 2 seasons before. But you still had Messier, Graves, Grant Fuhr in goal. I should know Bill Ranford was in goal. Grant Fuhr had moved on, I think, beforehand. But you had the last licks of that era, in the 80s, that dynasty. So the Oilers and pretty much the entire nation of Canada has been waiting for a Stanley Cup winner in any Canadian city since 1993. Yep. So, but like I said, I won't be mad if either Florida or Edmonton win the Stanley Cup, and if that makes me, it doesn't make me a hater of either team. It just says, hey, they're the 2 best teams. They went that far. Only one team can prevail. There's no participation trophy in the playoffs. Only one team can win. But I'm pulling for your team though. I want to see a game. I want to see a game 7 series. Yeah. Even though I predicted the Oilers in 6, I was hoping that they would win Game 5, then win Game 6 to make my prediction come true, so I can be Rice-Stradamus again. But that's not going to happen. But I'm still pulling for the Oilers. But like I said, I won't be mad if the Panthers win either.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously will feel a little different. But if the Panthers win, it just goes to show they are that good. And they got because they scuffled a little bit, but they battled through it. They got hot at the right time, which is what you want to do. And they made that clutch trade for Brad Marchand, which is paying off in dividends for them in this series.
Yeah. And also the trope about Florida and Tampa Bay building good teams because they have no income tax in Florida. Stop. All right. Yeah. It's a dumb take because your team didn't win. Your team didn't beat them. Therefore, there must be something different about why the Panthers and the Lightning are so successful, and it has to be because they have no income tax in Florida. Yeah. Here's their little secret about sports, folks. You're taxed on where you play that week. Doesn't matter what sport, hockey, basketball, football, baseball, your paycheck is affected by where you play that week. So say, for instance, you go on a roadie to the West Coast, you play 3 games in California, in Anaheim, Los Angeles, San Jose, you're paying California income tax, which is 13%. That comes out of your paycheck. Yes, in Florida, in Texas, in Tennessee and Washington State and Nevada, you have that luxury of not paying income tax. Guess what? That if you're an away team and you're playing in that city that day, you have to pay income tax. So it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah. And also I'm going to use another sport to make this argument. But first of all, the Panthers were bad until recently. So if that was true, they would have been good for longer than this. Now, Tampa Bay, they had a run because they had St. Louis back in the early 2000s, that whole thing, and then
even Stamkos.
Yeah. So I mean, they had some talent, but if that was true, the no income tax thing, You know who would have been good for a lot longer than they were and have been? The Dallas Mavericks. You know who they could never get? The big free agent center they always wanted. They had Eric Dampier, which no offense to Eric Dampier, but when he's your big free agent signing because you got spurned by the other big centers that people wanted at the time, if that income tax mattered as much as people are trying to make it matter, the Mavs would have been a lot better. They would have attracted more free agents. But guess what? It doesn't carry the weight that you think it does, because most of these guys are looking at, okay, what team gives me the best shot to win? Because at some point, it doesn't become about the money for most of these guys. They want to win.
They want to win. Yeah. And I can understand your concern about Connor McDavid, because according to Spot Track, he is an unrestricted free agent after the 2026 season. So after next season, you've got that window. The Edmonton Oilers have that window. And my biggest concern for them at the trade deadline is that they did not get a goaltender who could take them over the hump. And yes, you could ride Stuart Skinner, you can ride Calvin Pickard for so long before the cracks start to show, and they let in bad goals or their defense lets them down and they can't make the big save like they were accustomed to last year, and they've shown glimpses this year. But they're going to have to do something in the offseason to build up their goaltending, like bring somebody in who can make a difference, who's been a difference maker in the past, or else Connor McDavid, that window's closing, Connor McDavid is out the door. Yeah. And I pray to God we don't have like a decision like thing like LeBron James had during the day. I'm going to take my talents to Miami. We don't want to hear Connor McDavid say that.
Yeah. It's not like I know personally Connor, but I don't think he doesn't strike me as that type of
hockey players don't typically. No. They're not typically me first. They're about the team. You don't see many gregarious characters in the NHL.
No.
It's a very Canadian thing. I mean, you have a few outliers, but it's not typically that kind of. They're not typically that kind of style. Like they won't hold ESPN hostage for a 2-hour special just to announce like hour and 45 minutes in where they're going.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it, and stuff has come out later that LeBron did that to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. That's why he wanted to have it there. But it also, I mean, who knows how much ESPN is culpable versus LeBron and the people that surrounded him. Who knows? We'll never know. But that thing, I got to admit, I watched. I did
too. I grabbed a pint of ice cream and ate it while I watched.
Yeah.
As soon as he said, I'm going to go to Miami, I turned it off. I'm like, all right, I've seen it enough.
Yeah.
I know what happened from there. All right. We're going to talk about Wally and Meredith sitting in a tree. something. All right. So I can't play the clip because I don't want to get dinged by Major League Baseball again.
Yeah.
Jerks.
Oh man, they got us.
They dinged us for copyright because we showed the clip of the guy getting his riz on with that.
Oh man, okay.
That Atlanta Braves sideline reporter working his riz with that honey in Toronto. But last weekend was it on Sunday or was it on Saturday?
I can't remember. I want to say it was Sunday, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so this weekend, Yankees played in Boston for a 3-game series. Unfortunately, they were swept. They're not playing too good right now. They're not playing too hot right now. We'll have to cover that on Saturday with Kevin.
Yeah.
They don't improve upon their current offense. But sideline reporter Meredith Marakovits, long time. Meredith Marakovits had a moment with the Boston Red Sox mascot Wally the Green Monster. Now, on the first take, you saw Wally walk up behind her, kind of getting right next to her, and all of a sudden you see him just take her face and go like look like he kissed her. And I was like, that's hysterical. That's funny. But then I think that was on Saturday. Then the next day, you see her on the sideline again, doing the pregame show, and you see Wally the Green Monster in the background with a sign that says, and I have to bring up the picture that you sent.
Yeah, I think it says, "Not my type." Okay, Meredith.
Not my. She said she wasn't his type.
Yeah,
he wasn't her type. And then he holds up a sign saying, "Not my type." Okay, Meredith. And she just looks and she's just like, man.
Yeah.
So here we go again. I don't know if this has gotten any pushback or any. You see the critics and because everybody, the peanut gallery that is social media will always have something to say about it. Whether you thought it was funny, whether you thought it was cute, or whether you thought it was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
What's your impression of it, Dustin? What was
I
the
don't know.
whole thing to you?
I initially laughed at it. You know, I could see, and full disclosure, I didn't see both clips. But I could see if some people, especially if Meredith wasn't cool with it. But you know what? To me, it was just, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, they have a history.
Yeah.
They're rivalries. Wally, the mascot's job is kind of to rev the crowd up, and the San Diego Chicken, they used to antagonize people, back in the day. But I don't think there was anything behind this. Meredith seemed to take it in stride. She's a professional, and it wasn't like, it wasn't like he kept doing it and kept interfering with her job as she's trying to talk on the sidelines and stuff. I just thought it was a little. I thought it was kind of funny. That's why I sent it to you, and I figured it was a lighthearted jab at from the Boston Red Sox to the Yankees, and they were having fun with it. And the character of Wally, I remember that commercial. Ryan, do you remember the ESPN commercial? It was David Ortiz, and it was Jorge, and they were sitting in a conference room at ESPN, and Jorge's like, I can't get this hat to bend. And David Ortiz, he's like, let me see it. And he puts on the Yankee hat. And then just at that moment, Wally walks by and he knocks on the window and then knocks something over. And then David Ortiz is like, hey, Wale. It's pretty funny. You should look it up after.
I definitely will. I'll definitely will. Yeah. As for me, this was a cute interaction. I mean, it's a playful thing. And yes, you have to be a professional. If you're walking off set stomping mad because a mascot was playfully hitting on you, that's a you problem. And if you're someone on social media, in the peanut gallery that is social media, you gotta make that a shirt, by the way. The peanut gallery that is social media, if you're offended by the fact that a mascot, okay, today, and by the way, today is National Mascots Day, FYI. So, friend of the show, official mascot of the show, Tag Along says, hello, everyone. If you're offended by that, of a mascot playfully flirting with a sideline reporter, get a grip, okay? Go outside, go touch some grass, stay off of social media for a bit, and just relax, all right?
Yeah.
I would say there's an expression that my sister and I use. I can't say it on air, but it's call me your
yeah.
Call me your tatas. Call me your tatas. Let's do that. So yeah, if you're offended by that, call me your tatas. Get a drink, go touch grass, and talk to you later. And you should notice my byline here.
Yeah. And by the way, Meredith, if you're watching, I'm a big fan. I know you're a big fan of the show. You're welcome anytime. We'd love to have you as a guest.
You got two podcast hunks right here, man. Come on. Holler at your boys. All right, before we get out of here, we're going to talk about our favorite athletes. Actually, I should change that now to favorite athletes instead of athlete. Because I have a feeling number 45 is going to be for both of us. But for this episode, our favorite athletes to wear the number 44. We're going to close the show with this. I'm going to lead. I'm going to lead off this time.
Yeah, you lead off. I've been leading off a lot. Yeah. And
I got to say this about the number 44. It's a pretty magic number in sports. Hank Aaron wore it. Willie McCovey wore it for a short time. I don't know with which team. I think Babe Ruth wore it.
I believe you're right.
Real-time research here for Babe Ruth, who played from 1914 to 1935. Nope, he wore number 3 for the Red Sox, the Braves, and the Yankees. No, but it's a pretty magical number. And actually, the number 44 at Syracuse University is retired because so many great running backs wore it. Jim Brown, Ernie Nevers. I think Daryl Johnston wore number 44, if I'm not mistaken, or he wore number 48. I can't remember, but there's so many running backs that were great from Syracuse University who wore that number. It's never going to be worn again. It's never worn, because so many great running backs who played at Syracuse University wore the number 44. But I had to do a double check for my number 44 because I couldn't remember how long he played in Major League Baseball. And thankfully, he played long enough for me to watch him on TV. That is one Reggie Jackson. Straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah.
Now he started with he never wore number 44 throughout his career. He started with the number 31 as a member of the Kansas City Athletics when he was drafted by them. And then he wore number 9 before he was traded to Baltimore in 1976. He played one season for the Baltimore Orioles, wore number 9, then signed as a free agent with the New York Yankees for 5 seasons from 1977 to 1981. And of course, in 1977, the year I was born, he set the Major League record with 5 home runs in a World Series, including 3 in the penultimate game in the closing Game 6 of the 1977 World Series. Hit 3 home runs on 3 consecutive at bats to close out the series against the Dodgers. Won a World Series with the Yankees in 1978 as well. Wound up leaving the Yankees after kind of and with the Yankees, he was the big free agent splash. That was when George Steinbrenner said, all right, we're going to go find the greatest players. We're going to make them part of the Yankees. And it just so happened, Reggie Jackson, number 44. It became number 44. You didn't wear number 9 because number 9, I believe, was Roger Maris?
Yes, I believe you are correct.
Retired numbers. I was right. Roger Maris. Go with me. Just looked it up just to verify. But he wore number 44 because number 9 was retired. Roger Maris was a retired number. Wore number 44. Wore it loud. Wore it proud. Of course, in the docuseries on ESPN, that's a docuseries, but the fictional telling of the true story of the 1977 Yankees.
Rome is burning, right?
The Bronx is burning.
Bronx is burning. Yeah,
Bronx is burning.
Jeez.
Had that famous interactions between George Steinbrenner and Billy Martin and other players, including one Reggie Jackson, which was historically captured on camera when Reggie Jackson kind of laid up for a fly ball, and Billy Martin got into it in the dugout, and it was on TV for the world to see. But after his time with the Yankees, signed with the California Angels, and then signed with the Oakland Athletics to wrap his career in 1987. But 563 home runs, 2,584 at bats, 2,584 hits with a 262 average. Also stole 228 bases. Brought in 1,702 RBIs. My favorite to wear number 44, Reggie Jackson. I remember watching him as a kid. I remember watching him in an 86 ALCS with the California Angels, who blew a 3-1 series lead, and unfortunately surrendered to the Boston Red Sox. But Reggie Jackson, magical at bat, home run hitter, the straw that stirred the drink. My favorite to wear number 44. Your Uncle Al saying number 44, Doug Kotar. Rest in peace. But Dustin, for you, your favorite athlete to wear number 44.
Well, I kind of spoiled it for you, Ryan. You guessed it.
I had an idea.
You guessed it immediately. And, great pick for Reggie Jackson, but I didn't watch him play enough. I was too young, so I wasn't really tuned into baseball back then. So I couldn't pick Mr. October. Couldn't do it. But I am going to pick. Now, he's only on the team that I root for 1 year, but a magical year it was. I'm talking about one of the greatest defensemen to ever play the game. He was physical. He could score. He could do it all, Ryan. Chris Pronger.
Yep.
Now, full disclosure, where I remember Chris Pronger most from is his time on the St. Louis Blues.
Yep.
He was on the St. Louis Blues for most of his career.
Paired with Al McInnes.
Yes, for most of his career. And I mean, he was a physical, intimidating presence. He could go toe-to-toe with anybody. But like I said, he was not a one-dimensional player. As a matter of fact, he was a Hart Trophy Award winner. And he also, I believe he is in the Hockey Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. And he also was voted as one of the 100 greatest hockey players of all time, or it might have been defensemen of all time. I cannot recall. I'm trying to do this off the dome.
He is in the Hall of Fame. He won the Hart Trophy in 2000.
Yes.
Won the Norris Trophy that season, and was named in 2017, 2018 as one of the NHL's 100 greatest players.
There we go. So I had most of that right for once, unlike the time when I confused Sam Wyche and Frank Wycheck, but it's one of the best moments in the history of my run of the show. But Chris Pronger, I remember him so much from the run in 06 that he had with the Edmonton Oilers. And that year in 06, it was magical because not only did Chris Pronger sign with the Oilers, but also Mike Pekka was on that team as well.
Yes.
He was another, and the Oilers are considered a small market team in the NHL. And it was different to have players of that magnitude. Chris Pronger was probably still at the height of his powers when he signed with the Oilers in 06. And Mike Pekka and Chris Pronger were big reasons that the Oilers, along with the hot play of Rolison, who was acquired from the Wild, and also Alez Hemsky and Fernando Pisani. I remember that series like it was yesterday, the heroics. But Chris Pronger was a big reason why. And Chris Pronger gave people the impression, okay, the Oilers are for real now. They may have gotten in as an 8 seed, but they can contend with anybody. And that was a big reason, was because they had Chris Pronger on the team. He brought legitimacy to them. And unfortunately, as I alluded to earlier, after the Oilers did not win the cup, Pronger left the next season, rumored because his wife didn't want to stay in Edmonton. Whether that's true or not, we'll never know. No ill will against you, Mrs. Pronger.
His wife didn't want to stay in Edmonton.
Yeah.
That was it. He was, yeah. Yep. I've got his career. I've got his transactions. He's actually.
He went to Anaheim.
He
went to Anaheim and got the cup the next season. So
yeah, he did. He actually started his career in Hartford. He was drafted by the Whalers.
I had forgotten that.
He was traded for Brendan Shanahan. in 1995, and right before the season began, and after the lockout of 2004-2005 that canceled the season, he was traded by the Blues to the Oilers for Eric Brewer, Doug Lynch, and Jeff Wojtwitka. Then after the 2006 season, was traded to the Anaheim Ducks for two first-round picks.
And was it Dustin Penner as well? Or no? Because I think Dustin Penner was on the Ducks at that time.
It was 2 first-round picks, one in 2007, which they traded to Phoenix.
Okay.
Of 2008 first-round pick, which was Jordan Eberle, and a second-round pick in 2008, which was later traded to the Islanders. And the Islanders selected Travis Hamonic. And they also got Joffrey Lupul and Ladislav Schmid in that trade.
Oh, yeah, Ladislav Schmid, I remember.
Then he got traded to the Flyers in 2009, which was traded to Columbus for two first-round picks, and then traded by the Flyers to the Arizona Coyotes for a third-round pick. And he technically concluded that because that was the that was when the Coyotes weren't getting players, but they were getting their dead cap salaries. That was the salary dump of the inning. Because I remember,
was that when the Coyotes acquired, like they were run by the NHL? Was that when that was going on? Okay.
Yes, because I remember that they had Chris Pronger's contract. they had Pavel Datsuk's contract because he concluded his career. He didn't conclude his career in the NHL. He concluded his career in the KHL. So the salary dumping ground for the NHL back in the day was Phoenix, Arizona, where contracts go to die. And your Uncle Al saying number 9, Roger Mayer. See, I was right.
Yeah,
I was right.
You were on it. You were on it.
But I did the real-time research just in case. So yeah, that's our favorite number 44s. But we're gonna get ourselves up on out of here. But before we do, just remind you, Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, our morning brunch edition with gonna talk baseball with Kevin. We're talking about the Yankees offensive woes. Hopefully they'll be subsided by then. But oh my God, it's awful. And we got some feedback on social media, both you and I, for our clip regarding the attendance woes in Florida between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Miami Marlins. And someone named Michael Lortz, he says, he quote tweeted us and quote tweeted our clip and then tagged us saying, quote, "I'm guessing," meaning you did no research before you turned on your mic. "My articles are easy to find." I have no idea who this guy was before he tweeted us. So maybe I'll have to invite him on just to be fair, because again, the reason why I said I guess is because I'm guessing, or it was me or Kevin or you who said it, who said I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going off the top of our heads and we're just going by what we see.
Yeah.
All right. Sometimes we do research. Oftentimes we do research just to double check. If we're wrong, we'll correct ourselves. But I had no idea who this person was. So maybe I'll have to invite him on the show on Saturday just to talk about the attendance woes in Tampa and in Miami. Again, we meant no ill will. We're just talking.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, so no ill will towards those fans. But we didn't know who he was until he quote tweeted our clip and said, you know where to find my articles. Like, I had no idea this guy existed. I had no idea that this existed. But I'll try to reach out to him just to be fair and see if he's willing to come on Saturday shows so we could talk about it more, so we get more of an idea what's going on. But anyway,
and he can enlighten us if he, if we're wrong, we'll admit it.
Yeah, we live in New York. We're spoiled in terms of fandom and teams and whatnot. Like, we don't live in Florida. We don't get the vibe, unless we hear from people. I wanted to genuinely hear from Rays fans and from Marlins fans. That's the only person who really, I want to say clap back at us, but who I guess he's willing to give us a helping hand if possible. Hopefully, again, we didn't mean any ill will when we said those comments. We're just observing with our eyes. And what our eyes see is that we're seeing bad attendance in Florida between both Florida teams. So to be fair. But again, Saturday show, 10 a.m. Eastern. Join us then with Kevin. Talk about baseball. Hopefully Dustin won't be a sad panda by the time we come back because of the Oilers. But we'll talk about hot food takes. By the way, Joey Chestnut made it official yesterday. He is coming back. He is coming back to the hot dog eating contest. So the GOAT is coming back.
Yes. I'm so happy. And I gotta do it. My Uncle Al put a comment in the comments. If you know, you know. We up out of here. Woo!
Out of here. Woo! But before we get out of here, just want to remind you to please check out our social medias. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required. And also check out our other podcasts and our written articles on bellyupsports.com. And on the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and the audio version will also be on our YouTube channel afterwards. And also hit that notification bell on Twitter and on YouTube for show announcements, for live shows, for recordings, any kind of. I'm actually splicing together our reviews of the movies we are reviewing this year. So this review of Blue Chips hopefully will be up by the end of the week or towards the end of the week. So you can watch it anytime and on our YouTube channel. But also this show will be available on the on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. But we're going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are presented by Belly Up Sports for Dustin Henry. I'm Ryan McCarthy. We'll be back here on Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern for the morning brunch edition, talking baseball Saturdays with Kevin and other sports news. So have a great week. We'll talk to you again Saturday morning.
Good night, everybody.